Hi and welcome. My name is Tina, and in today's video, I am going to look at the soul contract of Jeffrey Buckley. Jeff Buckley was an American musician, and it was through several of my viewers, one in particular, who had recommended that or had asked if I would do him. And didn't really know much about him. And so when I did look him up and started to see what he was all about, he did end up coming through. And I do have some messages from him. So we'll look at his contract. We'll look at a lot of the things that he was going through. He did not have a long life. He crossed over at the age of 30, just really as his career and everything was escalating. He was an extremely talented musician, a guitarist, wrote quite a few songs and is still quite relevant. You know, he's still out on YouTube. He has a website. I'll put a link to that in the description box below. So let's get on with kind of what was going on with Jeff and see what the messages come through. So let me share my screen to start with. And so here we have Mr. Buckley, and I liked this particular picture because of the angel wings behind him, because of the beautiful energy that was around him. This very soulful musician, very sensitive, imaginative, quite intriguing. I loved being in his energy, but there was also a very deep sadness to his energy as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So, if you aren't familiar with my work, I do read soul contracts for people, and I do have a short introductory video that I put in the description box below, which gives you a history of the soul contract, how it came about, how I put the charts together. And it's based on the person's birth name. So, this happened to be Jeff's birth name, and that is what drives our main reality. So this is what creates our main reality. And other names can have an impact too, because not only did Jeffrey was born with this name. He was born in the late 60s. That's kind of my era. And like I said, he died quite young at the age of 30, I believe. Let me just validate that. Yes, he was 30. He had just moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and he drowned, which they believe was an accidental drowning. However, I believe from the soul's perspective that there are no accidents. So let's get into the soul contract. And with the soul contract, I always talk about the fact that we do have a physical side to our chart and we have a spiritual side. And so the physical side, of the Merkaba here, the Star of David, we've got one triangle that points to the earth plane, and then the other triangle that is our spiritual side. And then all of the numbers added together gives us our life purpose, soul destiny, or the overall lessons we were meant to learn in this particular lifetime. And right away, you can see that Jeff has the same number in his karma, in his both his physical karma and his spiritual karma, which gives him this dominant 9, which is very, very important and tells me a lot about him as a person. So this was a very, as I had mentioned before, a sensitive soul. And he had issues with acclimating or finding his way in society in past lifetimes, because your karma, which I talk quite often about, it's not a punishment, and don't anybody get scared about karma. It's about bringing together lessons that you struggled with in your past lives and bringing that forward so that there's something that you came here to work on in this particular life. And so, what Jeff would have struggled from in his previous life was being able to acclimate into society in a way where he felt he was, part of society and easily, could make friends and this also could mean that he possibly had committed suicide in a past life. And so he was coming back here to be challenged with how he acclimated himself into society. And so he's more of a high frequency soul. He would have a hard time with the denseness of the 3D environment that we live in called Earth. So he would struggle with that. This is somebody who felt very deeply, and the 3D world can be very, very dense, and he would not want to be really in the business world. That would be very difficult for him. So again, it's pretty obvious his choice of being a musician was more suited to what his soul was really trying to resolve in this lifetime. This would make him the soulful, sensitive person that I had mentioned before. And this would also give him this he would become very emotionally attached to people and to certain ideas, especially related to love in this particular life. So we call that unrequited love. So there could have been somebody that he became very attached to that he really struggled for. And so he would have this very deep, deep longing and wanting to reconnect. And it's really about him learning again about himself because in his talents, he has this great love and expansive energy. And this three is all tied to him being able to communicate at such his feelings. And through the music, you can tell how he was able to. And we're going to talk a little bit about the voice because he had something to say about that. But again, this is him really digging into this emotion, this deep love and trying to make sense of it for him. And this was very difficult for him because he would have a hard time getting over finding that balance in relationships and getting very attached. So his physical goals of a 5-5 is really tied to a very spiritual number in a physical aspect, and this is about writing. Actually, it's tied to the speech, so writing down his thoughts. And if you've read any of his lyrics, this man was incredibly, incredibly deep. So this was him expressing that deepness through his speech and then communicating it through his vocals, through his beautiful voice, which is just, as I listened to him, it instilled into me emotion. And so part of his journey here was to reach out. These eights are all about reaching out to society and communicating through your voice and through your speech in a very soulful way to connect with deep emotion. And he conveyed that very well. And his overall energy was to really bring together this very unified consciousness. And this is about bringing people together, seeing people as one, and, recognizing people in all different aspects of life. So with these eights, he can be a chameleon, but he would see beauty from all the different vibrations. And that is definitely in this number as well. Being able to connect with people from all different walks of life. He had the chameleon energy. So he was this, people would be very drawn to him. People who were really looking for this very nurturing, emotional energy, because that's what he was conveying and what he was meant to convey. So the sixes here are all about creativity and being very focused. He could be very focused and driven for his creativity. And it would be almost from a deep soul level because this was his spiritual side again. Um, the 19 is him really manifesting the space to do that and creating space for people. So he's actually a healer through his music. It was really a shame that he was here for such a short time, that because he was here to reach out to society and to be a healer, to create space for people to heal through his music, and his sound was very powerful. That's kind of this brief, analysis of what his overall energy is, what he came here to learn. So let's talk about some of the songs that were connected to these energies coming in. So, his song Eternal Life talked about, racism, and that's what we're talking about with this unity energy as well. And the eights, this love model, the eights and the 12 is all about love, 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 love. And so he, all of his songs, Last Goodbye, Lilac Wine, So Real, Lover, You Should Have Come Over is a really good one, and there's this lyric, where he says, she's the tear that hangs in my soul forever. This deep, deep longing and emotion that this is a very tortured, almost emotion that he was conveying about the soulfulness of people and being able to tap into this very, very deep love. So the next thing that I do want to jump to is the fact that eights can struggle with depression because of being able to go to the depths of this emotion in this very almost depressed and tortured way. And you can see it in his eyes. His eyes were so soulful. He could almost bring tears to your eyes if you're empathic. You can feel the sadness behind them. And so that these eights represent Cancer energy, which is tied to water. And we know about him drowning, and this 13 is about the divine feminine, which is all about creativity. It's not, meant to be, about a woman. It's divine feminine energy, which is creation, bringing people to you for the nurturing. And it is tied to the waters of emotion that you go to the depths of to transmute the negative energy, and you wash it, you cleanse it, because it brings something new, a new growth through that energy. So if you think of it like a plant, and the soil is the darkness where the seed takes root, and all the minerals from the darkness, that deep, deep sadness. And then the seed sprouts this beautiful tree that has branches and opens up to get the energy from the sun. The 4 here is tied to the sun. And so it bears fruit, and fruit is the project, but the project is all about then creating creating the housing for the seeds that will eventually drop back down to repeat. So the dirt is and the dark energy are the minerals that give you this new burst of creativity. So that's kind of explaining it, because he was an elemental as well. So he would be very tied to nature, and he was very tied to the water energy. So again, I'm feeling there was more behind this drowning, especially because I heard that he was fully clothed when he went swimming. That seems kind of odd to me. So I had some questions about that, and it's not about knowing everything. We're not meant to know everything about everyone's life. And so I do want to pull some cards if you don't mind. I'm going to actually do just a little short reading on his last goodbye, so to speak. There's a song that was written. Um, and what was going on that he wants to share with us. Oh, so a couple cards popped out, and we're going to put them back in because I'm not quite ready here and see if okay, we got a bunch here trying to come out, so I only went, yeah, okay, now I feel like, okay, so all right, so now we get the signifier is the Hermit card. I am going to stop sharing just so that I can show you the cards, and you've seen the soul contract, so I may refer back to some of the numbers in his chart. But so okay, so here we have this Hermit, and this is that unity of one energy. And so this is he was very much this very lonely, soul, felt very, very lonely inside, kind of going along his path, illuminating. So that is what we call the Hermit. So he very much was trying to acclimate, but again, felt very much this loner energy. And so he was crossed by this energy here, which is a lot of kind of strife, conflict, when you're working with a lot of different people. And this could also be, you know, training too. Maybe he was, struggling about how he was going to you know, put out his next album. There can be a lot of tension and conflict from that. So, like, what direction do I go in, right? And everyone's looking at their own one. So he's got people around him too with all their different ideas. And so, musicians and artists are always challenged by that energy. And this is the Five of Wands too. And we talk about that five energy in his chart, which can be some impatience, some impulsivity with that, as well as to really how to put that action. And so here in the conscious thoughts is there was a lot going on for him. He was getting ready, I believe, to release his second album. There was some communication going on. So let's see if we can find out if that was just related to his album. And so in the subconscious, this is the patience card. So this is patience. This is finding balance. Um, the sun's coming up, but here's the water, dipping the toe into the water here, and the angel energy. And so in the past, so here we have the 10 of Cups in reverse. And so for him, this is a little bit of a mediocre sense of accomplishment, not really feeling like you're fulfilled. So this is struggle with feeling you deserve fulfillment and you deserve emotional support. And then he's got this celebration card. They must have been celebrating his the album that had been out and some things that were happening. So there was some celebration energy that was going on. So there was some emotional fulfillment. But here, this is the women. There is some emotional, something going on with women. And I know that he had proposed to somebody very recently prior to his death. And so how he saw himself, that's what this card is representing. This is just disappointment. There's some disappointment here in your harvest. So not really feeling, that you're where you should be. And I'm guessing he was very hard on himself with recognizing his own sense of self-worth and his own worth. And so here in the subconscious, there's this fear of destitution that was really driving him. Now, I know he was raised very poor, almost considered a trailer trash growing up environment. And that's all tied to those eights having a hard time acclimating into society. So he would be very hard for him to settle down and to build a home and those types of things. And so this can be a lot of fears in his subconscious going on. And so, yeah, so here's this very harsh judgment, and this is his harsh judgment towards himself. And he had a 12 in his talents, and we do bring in, we can bring in the negative qualities. All those numbers have positive and negative, as I always talk about. And so that would bring in a lot of this self-judgment and missing his calling, and feels like he missed an opportunity. And so I feel like there was something with love, with a missed opportunity, and this fear of not having enough, which a lot of us do. But this was, like I said, he seemed this very, very tortured soul. And so he was looking, he was searching for something that he just didn't feel that he could get his. This is an entrepreneur card, but it's looking at this opening, not knowing where you're going type of energy. And that's this 3 that was also in his chart. That's that communicating up from the depths. So there was something going on with him that he may have been not in a good mental place that day he decided to take that dive into the water. There's no accidents, That is again a symbolism of where he was emotionally. And that can be a side effect of those karmic eights, is feeling too much. So this is the chess queen coming up, and this is that 3 again, and that's tied to trust and strategizing. And so he was struggling with, here is a woman putting that love energy on a pedestal. Do you notice how this woman is on a pedestal? So that's tied to your self-worth, not feeling like you are, and 3s are tied to self-worth issues. And this is putting those women on a pedestal and not feeling that you're worthy of having that love that you are seeking. And I'm going to get one more of these. Yeah, this is the Dragon's Duel. So this is about any type of dragon energy. It's inner conflict, morality, conscious choice. And so this is all about the 2 dragons here entwined. And dragon is fire energy. And there's the moon, which signifies connection. And very, very, dragons breathe a lot of fire. This is when to, breathe fire. Are you holding all of that? 5s are tied to the, which is a 23 here, and 5s are tied to this like I said, this very impulsive action, and maybe there was some impulsive action that he took that he was struggling with. And so we're going to, and it's all about going in to stillness, going within and going into the water. Because of course you see the beautiful swan here, and he was just so elegant and graceful. But what you don't see is what's going on under the water, and they struggling, which I think is very, very significant for what happened. Is you could see all this beautiful energy on top of the water, but you couldn't see what was going on underneath, that turmoil and that dragon's duel, that something was inside of him, was having this inner conflict. And so we're going to get the work your life. Yes, and this is break the chain. If you guys can see this is a great card. Come out. Jeff. Break the chain, ancestral patterns, healing and rewriting the future. So, and again, we see this woman on this card, and this line of people from the cave, and he was that divine feminine energy that was not very well embraced in our culture. But the ancestral patterns, we want to talk about his dad dying from an overdose. So there's, again, that's all tied to breaking those patterns in our DNA that we bring forward. That's part of that karmic. And so again, that anything that's in your karma is part of your ancestral patterning that you came here to break. Very beautiful energy. And so let's go to the elemental deck, because he was an elemental energy with being a dominant 8. And this is all about building atoms. And here we've got a boat on the water again. A lot of this water energy is coming through, signifying, sailing out to calmer waters. So, it's kind of what I get. And all of these lights, all of these orbs around us, our ancestors, our spirit guides, trying to guide us and help us. And so he's telling you to pay attention. Don't get caught up in this turbulence here. And building atoms. I just feel like I'm missing something with that. It's just tied to our energy, he says, our energy and how it plays on each other, as we are all energetic beings. We all contain these atoms within us. So I am going to actually, I think, read on this one. There's a message here he wants to convey. Everything is connected by the same building blocks of matter. You are electric and vibrating in motion. Being stagnant in your beliefs and growth is unnatural. Building and changing is natural. There is room for infinite variety. Okay, and so he's talking about autonomous, so atoms, word of power. So again, okay, this is what he's really trying to convey, and I haven't talked about this yet, but your voice and how powerful your voice is. And then the word of power gives you power. So many ancient cultures suspected the world was made up of building blocks that couldn't be seen. While the elements of the earth, air, fire, and water were part of their thinking, many also thought that Even these formidable elements were constructed from something. So even, water has atoms. The ancient Greek philosophers around 450 AD suggested that atoms existed, they were infinite, and that there must be different kinds to reflect the object that was the end result. Indian and Islamic scholars also reported on the idea of atoms, but it wasn't until the 16th and 17th centuries the notion became a serious field of study, like with Newton. The last 200 years have given us a clear idea of what atoms are made of. Each atom is composed of a nucleus and one or more electrons bound to the nucleus. The nucleus is made up of protons, subatomic particles with a positive charge, and neutrons, subatomic particles with no net charge that are slightly bigger than protons. The boundaries of an atom are not well defined, so they are able to connect and vibrate. We can use a scanning tunneling microscope to view surfaces at an atomic level. The idea that we are all connected or that everything is part of the whole is somehow borne out in quantum physics. It's not just some romantic ideal, it is something solid. Yes, so string theory has definitely proven that we are all vibrational, that we give off energies, and that what we think is solid things is really not that way, that everything is just a vibrational. So he wants to get back to that being in infinite variables and seeing through these things, these illusions, and tying back to that word, which is sound, and sound is vibration, and that powerful. Um, because again, some of the words that he wrote, and this was one that had stood out to me, and he says in his lyrics, "And I couldn't awake for the nightmare that sucked me in and pulled me under." And I think about that with that last day and that last event about, again, we create our own realities and there are no accidents. And so we have to be very careful about where we are in our up here, because that's, again, the tools and how we're feeling. And he wanted to talk about how to be sure that we listen to people's words instead of we tend to listen to people's words instead of the emotion that is being conveyed through the sound. If you listen to the way people talk to you, not so much about what they say, you can never be betrayed because their voice conveys how they're really feeling. So it's something beyond just our perceptions. And so he was doing a lot through his voice. That was his way to connect. That was how he conveyed his feelings. And he wants to let everyone know to make sure that you are paying attention to that, to how people are coming across, that is definitely worth, diving in a little deeper on that voice. So we're going to get just a couple more. And then this one is all about come to the edge. So here we have the woman on the pedestal again. So, and he pushed himself to come to the edge. And this is part of, again, our coming here is to have these beautiful experiences. And he was pushing himself to the edge. I find that real, and there's all of these hearts. So through his, this attachment to these relationships and this ideal of this perfect love, which is an illusion, it's all about loving the self, finding that love within. We're searching for it, through others. So he wants you to know that was part of his journey here, was to find that love within the self. And so I want to go to the Keepers of the Light Oracle and see what other messages. So holy amethyst is coming through, and this is that higher wisdom. And I just wanted to wear purple today for some reason, which is all about learning. All these, you can't really die. So his soul, he's still alive, he's still on the other side. And she's coming through with divine alchemy. And this is about moving beyond your current challenges and focusing on what you desire. So, so instead of focusing on what you don't have, focusing on what you're going to achieve to transmute that, because we can get caught up in that focusing too much on what we don't have. And again, this card too with the swan, there's a lot of that purple energy in the water. And I'm going to pull an angel guide, and I think we're gonna call it complete. Oh, divine timing. So patience and trusting is so important in this life. And there's the portal. Um, these are all, all these incarnations are learning. And he did so much, and we don't know through our soul contracts if our exit point is an agreement. And but we do want to talk about, there's a lot of divine timing here, divine alchemy, trusting, being, how he was that came through the tarot cards, um, his struggles with his beliefs, and the women, dreaming of that uh that that special someone. And so yeah, no, I really enjoyed learning a lot about him and his music and the song Hallelujah that he sang. I know that wasn't one that he wrote, but it was very beautiful. His voice is, it's amazing, the emotional quality that comes from his voice. And he, is, even though he only had, two, I think one album came out after his death, there was definitely the another album I think they put out. I mean, he was on his way, obviously, to mega stardom with just what he did in his short time here. So that was very amazing, and he should be very proud of that. And so he's very, like I said, he comes through with this very paternal, protective, sensitive energy, and very soulful. So it's all good. Like I said, everything is meant to be, and we're all just here trying to do the best we can. So love yourself. It's a journey for all of us. And thank you for suggesting him. I really enjoyed this, and I hope you got something out of it. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.